Hello, beautiful beings, and welcome to the podcast episode of today. So, this is a head noise episode. I am answering your questions. I have one written and three voicemail questions in this episode today. Absolutely loving receiving your voice messages. I just love receiving your questions in general. It's very, very cool. As you guys know, it's one of my favorite things to do on the podcast is to directly be able to offer advice or knowledge or something or a different point of view or a way to think about your situation differently that makes you feel a little bit more empowered. Now, separate to that, little life update before I get into it, I have finally, can I just say, started a broadcast channel on my Instagram. I've done it on my personal Instagram. So my personal Instagram used to be Alexis Predez, but I've changed it to my actual name, which is now Alexis Fernandez Praxer. So if you don't already follow me, obviously go ahead and follow me. That need not be said. And join my broadcast channel. It's called the Self Love Club. It is honestly such a cool thing. I thought I'd do so I put up a little, because you can poll or prompt the people within the club to answer any question that you ask them pretty much. And so I just wanted to read out some of them because I did a prompt, which was today I learnt ... And there were so many great responses. I'm obsessed with this broadcast channel. And if you're in the broadcast channel, if you're following that channel or a member, then you can read all of these. But it's today I learnt. Someone said that if you don't make time to rest, your body will force you to make time, that you can't force someone to care, that I cannot stress over things that aren't or haven't happened, that I can only meet people where they are at, how much sunshine actually lifts my mood, that it is okay to let go, what you're not changing, you're choosing, that I'm my own constant, that I need to be patient with my body. Your body will give you warning signs when she needs rest. You can't control the uncontrollable. Love this one. How to get a red wine spill off a white wall. Hadn't even had a sip yet. Hate that so much. Water, soap, vinegar, and peroxide. Great life advice in general. I'm so obsessed with this broadcast channel. It's called the Self Love Club. You need to follow me and join that broadcast channel because it is an absolute fucking mood. And then I can poll you guys as well. Here I am acting as if this thing just got released, but it's been I feel like broadcast channels have been a thing for a long time. Now I'm I can ask you guys things do you like planning your year ahead? At the end of the year, and I said I would if I had a clear idea. Most people clicked that one. And then the next one was love it, and then there was 76 people that were not a fan. So it's really nice to get the feedback and just, get some insight into how you guys think and believe. Anyway, so definitely go join the Self Love Club. I'm going to be sharing photos, quotes, ideas, my own personal life updates, polling you guys, sharing, anonymously, but sharing what you guys say as messages or advice to each other, sharing it on the group. It's just a really, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I feel it's more interactive than the Facebook page. And I'm just rarely on the Facebook page because ever since my Facebook got hacked, it's I struggled to log into it on my phone. So anyway, good times. Let's get straight into the first voice message of the episode.
Hi, Alexis. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my voice message. Calling in from Wisconsin, United States, looking for advice from you on how to support my partner. He and I have been together a little over 4 months. Prior to that, we worked together. He was married during the time that we worked together. In fact, he's still married, but he's currently going through a divorce and has essentially moved in with me and my school-age child. And unfortunately for my partner, that means that he's in my hometown and is brushing shoulders with individuals from my past. He's having a really difficult time coping with that. His entire mood changes. So, for example, this morning he went to the gym and he came back with a very foul mood. And I asked how the gym was, and he said not great. And it was because he ran into people from my past. And I'm just looking for advice from you on how to best support my partner through this situation. I love him very much. He loves me. And he's normally a very confident man. But this just really seems to be hurting his heart. And so I just want to touch base with you and see if there's anything that I could be doing differently to support him?
Okay, great question. To answer in a nutshell what you've said at the very end, what I can do to support him, this is not about you supporting him. That's what he's experiencing is a major insecurity, and it's manifesting as him trying to control you or make you feel responsible for his insecurity. So what you can do to quote unquote support him is to communicate this across and get him to see it. But you don't have to support that behavior whatsoever because it is an unhealthy behavior. Okay. What is happening now? You said a person from your past. I am presuming that this person from your past is either an ex or someone that is closely linked to an ex. I can't imagine that it would be like a high school friend and all of a sudden he's got this conundrum in his head. So that's what I'm presuming you were referring to. He's either crossed paths with an ex. Now, the second thing that I'm presuming is that this was just a very, very PG kind of interaction that he literally crossed paths. It like ignited an insecurity within him and he's now felt bad. I'm also presuming that he didn't run into an ex of yours and the ex started abusing him because that's grounds to feel extremely uncomfortable or for your day to have turned shit. Okay. So with that said, presuming all of the above, this is a very, very, very common behavior in insecure people within relationships. Now, when I talk about insecure people, I'm not trying to say it as a stab, but it is an insecurity. An insecurity is something that is based out of fear. Okay. So what's happening here is he feels like it's called retroactive jealousy is what it's called. And he's experiencing retroactive jealousy. Basically, what's happening is that you are jealous of your partner's past. In particular, you are jealous of your partner's past partners, experiences that you might have had with them, locations that you might have gone to with them. They get really uncomfortable. Like if you were to go to a restaurant, here's this. Ask yourself this question. If you were going to go to a restaurant and your partner said to you, have you ever been here before? And you say, yeah, my ex and I used to come here. How would your partner react? If they do not like hearing that, that is like a tinge, if not more than a tinge, of retroactive jealousy. Okay? Your partner, while they might not love it, should be able to really grasp the concept that just like they do, you have a past. The cunt is married, all right? So he doesn't have, not that anyone with retroactive jealousy has a leg to stand on, but less for this one, okay? You're fucking married, bro, right? I have a past. I've dated people in the past, as most people do. I existed before you came into my life, and part of that existence is forming bonds, connections, and entering in and out of relationships, okay? So people with retroactive jealousy really struggle to fathom that it's no longer a threat. They see it as a present threat. They see it as they are trying to have ownership over you and your past. So I have an entire episode on retroactive jealousy. It's literally called retroactive jealousy. If you go into my podcast thing and just type that in, that will pop up. Have a listen to it. It's going to give you a really deep understanding of what it is, what it looks like, how it manifests, and like things that you can do around it. But I think number one, it's important to have him listen to that episode or take points from that episode and you communicate it in the best way that you think he would receive that information. Another really important thing to note is that it's really difficult for someone to admit that something is an insecurity. Especially if someone's like quite a macho. I don't know what your partner's like, but like this macho thing, they don't look at it as an insecurity. They look at it as like, well, I just don't like thinking about that, and I just don't want this. They try and turn it into something that it's absolutely not. It is a fear. It's a fear that they're not going to live up to the ex, that you might still have pleasant feelings about the ex, that you this, that you that. It all comes down to fear, okay? Which is then triggering an insecurity. Am I not good enough? Okay? If you genuinely have if you don't see the ex as a threat in any way, shape, or form, then there's no way you're going to be retroactively jealous. Okay? I even had someone write into me once, and I even write about this in my book. This man wrote into me and he said, you have literally saved my marriage. I've been married for like decades. This man had been married for decades. And he said that he would always make his wife feel so uncomfortable every time she raised something about her past, especially when it had to do with a partner, even if it was indirect, like when she talks about a trip to Italy, but the partner, her ex, was there with her, obviously. And he would make her feel so uncomfortable that he'd press her and press her, and then he'd find out that she'd withhold information. And then one day he heard the retroactive jealousy episode, and he's like, I now realize that the reason she was withholding information is not because she's lying, it's because she didn't want to deal with my fucking shit and my tantrums every time I made her feel so shit for just having had a past. So she'd like omit tiny little details because she couldn't be bothered, right? And so he fully had this crazy understanding that he made his wife listen to the podcast, and she was like, I finally feel seen and heard by you and by this person, me, who did the podcast. And he said that from that day onwards, their marriage has just gone leaps and bounds because he was able to like really finally say to his wife, this is what I'm going through and I need to change this, and I'm now aware of what it is, okay? So as far as supporting your partner, that is an unhealthy behavior, and that absolutely needs to change because his behavior is the only thing that can change. There's nothing you can do to change because you are entitled to your past and nobody should make you feel wrong. Now, disclaimer here, this obviously, now this goes without saying because some people just like comment absolute bullshit on some of the things that I put up on social. This obviously does not include if you were still like talking to your ex, flirting, oh my God, aha, giving all this, right? Like we're talking about adults behaving appropriately who still have an issue with you having had a past. That is what we're referring to, okay? Hopefully that gave you some insight, but definitely check out that episode. I think it will help you massively. All right, next one.
Hi, just calling in. I'm someone who was anxiously attached and now I am securely attached. For me, I guess it's been like a 6-year process since my first relationship as a 18-year-old, and I, was really immature and just I couldn't be alone and all those things that you've mentioned, the traits. And then I was listening to the traits because I thought maybe I still am anxiously attached, but none of them relate to me anymore. I'm in a new relationship. And I love to be alone. I really love my hobbies, my routine. And what really helped me was just having a morning routine that makes me feel good, which you helped me find. Every morning, get up, go do yoga, go for a run, have my coffee, do some journaling. And it just made me realize how much I love working on myself. And you really need time for yourself, and that not everything is about the relationship. So I guess just finding yourself, listening to music, you need to dance it out and be on your own. You can't do that with a boy, he just won't get it. And yeah, so those are some things that have helped me. And listening to Do You Fucking Mind as well, obviously.
Oh my God, I love that so much. And this is because like I remember a few weeks ago, I was like, guys, when I did the anxious attachment podcast episode, and I was like, if you've gone from anxious to secure, please like message in. So I'm so happy that you sent that message. And this is a prime example. It's like, it's not just about the relationship. So much about your attachment has to do with your relationship with yourself. And the more you prioritize yourself, the more you heal with yourself, the more you start to realize, I am good company, I'm a fucking good time, the less you feel threatened by the actions of others within relationships because you're constant. Like someone said, what I learned today, I'm my own constant. It's like the more you realize you are that person that's always going to be there for you, especially like, yes, in the hard times, but more so in the good times, because hopefully you're having more good times than you are having really hard times. And you want to be there for the good times on your own, like dancing it out on your own, doing these morning routines, going for the run or yoga and your coffee and your journaling, all these things, you start to really build on that relationship with yourself. And that helps your attachment style incredibly. And then lay it on top of that, being in a securely attached relationship with someone who is securely attached just is such a good, like when you can be with someone who's securely attached, they if you're willing to accept the lead, you can learn so much from them. It's really quite a beautiful thing. And a few people did write in about how like they learned so much about secure attachment by being with someone who was securely attached. So thank you so much. Love, 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 love. All right, third one.
Hey Alexis, I love your podcast so much. My question is, how do you know if it's the right time to take a leap of faith? Like, say you wanted to start a new career or open up a business, how can you differentiate between feeling ready and taking a leap of faith, or just being impulsive?
Great, great question. And it's so hard when you're trying to when you just look at it initially, there's so many things that we want to do impulsively, right? There's so many things that because the funnest time of an idea is in the initial brainstorm planning, right? We get caught up on oh, I want to live in another country, or I want to launch this business. That's going to be the best time. Then when you actually decide to bite the bullet and think, okay, now I'm actually going to work, then it requires all well, not all, but it requires a lot of ugly. It requires a lot of effort, money, risk, failure, roadblocks, all this shit, okay? So a lot of us, the problem is though, a lot of us will sit in that excitement being like, is this me just getting excited about something when in reality I'd actually hate, or not hate, but think that the actual unfolding, the actual reality of it is not something I'd want to do or not something that would work for me versus is this something I'm actually pulled to do and I really, really need to just take that leap and do it. So when you're looking at taking a leap of faith, I think it's important to ask yourself a couple of questions. Firstly, ask yourself, how do I feel about this when I revisit it in different moods? Because you know that I quoted this very recently, but I'm going to butcher it. But it's something like, don't make a promise when you're happy. Don't say something when don't reply when you're angry. Don't, that. And it's this same thing. Sometimes we'll be so excited, so whatever, that we promise this, we're going to do this. But then once the adrenaline has calmed down and once we've looked at it again, we're like, actually, that's not really something that would fit into my life. So you've got to ask yourself, how do I feel about this thing across a couple of days or weeks and across different moods? Like when I first wake up, when I go to bed at night, if I've looked at this a couple of times, when I'm calm, when I'm excited, and overall, does it still sound like a good idea? That's one thing that you need to factor in. The next thing is, what is the alternative that I'm choosing and why am I choosing this alternative? Because every time there's the idea we're not taking a leap of faith, we're still making a choice, and that choice is to stay. So when you're looking at the choice of not taking the leap, what's the alternative and why am I choosing the alternative? Because for some people, it's because the alternative's still really good and I still really like it. And I'm kind of at a fork in the road and there's two great lives I could lead and pulled this on and that's quite difficult. But for a lot of people, it's because it's all I've ever known and it's safe. But I wake up every morning being like, my life could be this and it's not. But the thought of changing it terrifies me because what if I fail? What if okay? So you've got to really think, what alternative am I choosing? What is my current? And is it safe? Is it something that's actually fulfilling? Is it something that if I stayed here for the next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, I would still feel fulfilled? Because if the answer is no for those things, then you should be pushed more to take that leap. Then it is really important for you to ask yourself, what actually is the worst case scenario? And do I have the tools to manage it? Because if you don't have the tools to manage it, your fear going into it might actually cock block you from you doing good things. If you think, I actually can afford for this to fail, I have a skill set, I'm really employable, I could go back to what I'm doing now if it all failed, like it would suck, I might be embarrassed, I would lose some money, it would put me behind by a couple of months, so all these things, but they're all things I can actually deal with. I've looked at it all, and at no point am I going to be on the street or am I going to be whatever, you weigh it up and then you think, okay, I've looked at it, because a lot of people avoid thinking of worst case scenario. No one wants to think about we fear, but no one wants to really conceptualize what actual failure looks like because we don't want to experience it. And no, you're not manifesting it by just thinking, what would the worst case scenario be? You're just looking at it coldly. And when you're able to look at that and think, I actually could survive all of that, if the answer is yes, then you will feel so much more confident about doing this thing. The times that it's scary to take a leap of faith is when you've got it good and you could risk it all to take a leap of faith somewhere else. That's where it's scary. And that's where people get stuck and start questioning and over questioning it. And, because if you've got something really good and you're going to sacrifice something really good for a risk, that's why people don't want to do it. Okay. So what I would say is, what is the worst case scenario? Can you survive it? Because I also think that because a lot of people say, that you should never have a plan B. It should only ever be a plan A. Put all your eggs in one basket. Put this, put that. I don't believe in that. I genuinely don't. I think, yes, you should be fully committed once you decide on something. I think, yes, but I think you should have 1,000 different options for where your life could be headed. We are dynamic people. We are, um, y- you know, we can remold ourselves and reshape ourselves 1,000 times over in our life. Okay. So I don't think that you should be like, if this isn't working, you're not working hard enough. You haven't sacrificed enough. You haven't. I don't believe in that. I think it's okay to know when to quit. I think it's okay for you to be like, this is not fucking working and I'm also not happy. I'm going down this other route or this other route or this other route. And it doesn't even have to be in a hierarchy. It doesn't have to be plan A, B, C, D. It could be I've got multiple plans and I'm going down this route first and then I'm going down this route. So my answer to you in a nutshell would be, number one, why are you staying where you're staying? Because you're making a choice every day to stay. Why? Why are you so compelled to stay? And what aspects of that could you still have if you took that leap of faith? You would still have your friends, you would still have your family, you would still have your health, you would still, I'm guessing, there's many things that would actually still stay constant in your life. Why am I choosing to stay? What is the worst case scenario of risking it? And then would I actually be happy in 3, 4, 5 years if I didn't take that leap of faith? And then ask yourself about this thing that you want to do across different moods, across several days or weeks. Okay. So, for example, when I went and did that leap of faith and bought that ticket to go to France, yes, it was an impulsive decision to buy the ticket that night. But in me, brewing for months was, I just need to get out. I need to get out. I don't know what it is. I know this, but I know I'm not happy here. And if I was in this situation again for another year, I'd be so annoyed. So at least I knew that. So even though when I bought the ticket to go to France, it was like on a whim because my credit card details worked when I punched it in and I remembered them. That was very much like, yes, impulsive and yes, a leap of faith, but based on a deep knowledge of what I knew I wanted and what I knew I didn't want. Okay. Thank you so much for writing in. Love. Okay, this one's a written one. I'm going to be reading it out. Hi, Alexis. I was wondering if you could please shed some light on a situation that I'm navigating and let me know your thoughts. I'm 25 years old and I'm in an almost 4-year relationship with the guy that I believe to be my person. At the start of this year, we purchased our first home together and recently got a rehomed dog who we are obsessed with and has brought us even closer together. Adorable. My partner is my exact kind of person: kind, funny, mature, emotionally intelligent, and just an all around great guy. However, he has ADHD and he has a really hard time regulating his emotions. He has been on medication for now 2 years, and this has helped heaps. But now and then he has an outburst, and I'm the one to bear the brunt of it. Throughout our relationship, this kind of thing has occurred approximately 5 to 6 times. It will start over something little, and it hasn't happened now for about a year, but last week it happened again. We were bickering in the car, and it just escalated beyond belief. I made the stupid mistake of calling him crazy and saying, I can't believe you thought coming off your anti-anxiety medication was a good idea. I've since apologized for this comment, but that was what sent him into an emotional mess. He went from laughing in my face, making a kissy face like he was egging me on to slap him or something, slammed the car door so hard that I thought it was going to break off, and kicked the garage door. By this point, I was bawling because this behavior took me straight back to the stuff I experienced with my stepdad, which my partner knows about, making this hurt even more. I ended up calling his dad to come and collect him. For context, he has also been drinking, and whilst this makes his outbursts worse, it has occurred before when he was sober. So it happens both sober and drunk. I honestly don't know what to do. He is so embarrassed by his behavior and incredibly remorseful, and I can see how angry he is at himself for treating me this way again. There is no attempt by him to shift the blame onto me, and he's always been super aware of his outbursts and made a genuine attempt to not let them happen, and I have noticed an improvement in him. But the other day was the worst one yet, and I'm having genuine doubts now. I wish I wasn't, because it would break my heart if we split up. But is it wise to further invest in a life with this person? I want to stay with him, but how would you recommend he address these outbursts, and at what point would you walk away? I know it's not my responsibility to fix him, but he's like a broken bird who needs help. If you see this and can provide some of your incredible wisdom, which I value so highly, that would be amazing. That is so like sad and difficult. And I think the thing is, this is what you got to think of. Number one, ADHD, medication, alcohol or not, all of this or not, there is never, ever, ever an excuse for someone to treat you in a way where you are genuinely terrified. Ever. Even if they're like, well, it's this thing affecting. So, for example, if I was being treated by my partner in a way where there was like, oh, but it's this thing that's making me do it, I'd be like, that really sucks. That's really awful. But I just can't be in this relationship, because just because you're going through something that's causing you to abuse me, that doesn't mean I have to put up with it. That's number one. At no point ever, ever, ever do you need to put up with certain behavior because it's hard for them. Never. All right. Now, what would you need to see in order to stay with him is the question, right? What changes do I need to see in order for me to think I feel comfortable and safe enough to stay with him? I feel like it's not a ticking time bomb until the next time it happens. Because if this happened another 3 times, you would probably be kicking yourself, being like, this is not the kind of person that I want to be in a relationship with. This is not what I've signed up for. Okay. So I think that you've got to really get clear on what does that look like. And there needs to be measurable things. I think number one, I would need to see my partner go to therapy. I would need that. To me, if that happened, it's therapy or we're done. There's no question about it. And if someone is resistant to therapy, I'm sorry, but that's your answer. I want to change, but not that much, because I find therapy uncomfortable. Well, I find you kicking a garage door and making me scared as fuck uncomfortable too. We're all fucking uncomfortable. And if you're not willing to put yourself in an uncomfortable position, then I'll fucking make you uncomfortable by leaving. Okay? It's that simple. So therapy is an absolute non-negotiable. You need to talk this shit out. The other thing that you need to ask yourself is, because you said you bear the brunt of it, if someone can selectively decide who they're going to snap at, it is within their control. Okay? Simple. If he only ever snaps at you, that means that he can control not snapping at other people. So do with that information what you want. But if I saw my partner only ever, if he did it to everyone, firstly, I wouldn't be someone that was doing it with someone that would do it all the time. But if I spoke to my partner's family and they'd said, oh yeah, this is like something he's been dealing with or whatever, then I'd be like, all right, this is across the board. Still doesn't make it okay, but I'd be like, it obviously is like really difficult to control, more reason to go to therapy. But if it was something that only ever happens to you or an ex-partner that he's had, then he can not do it if he wants to, because he's selective on who he explodes with. And that is the number one thing that you have to remind yourself of, to anybody who's listening who is in an abusive relationship. If your partner can selectively only abuse you, but says they have no control, they are lying. Because if they had no control, they would be going around and snapping and having outbursts to other people as well, because they really can't control it. Okay? So with that information, what I would do if I were you is like, yes, we've built a great life together, but nothing is worth having to experience that regularly for God knows how long. I need you to go to therapy. I'm willing to go to some of those sessions with you. I'm willing to, invest in this together. Like it's not like I'm punishing you. This is to help us. It's good. You go, we can go together for some, you go alone for some. You actually have to work through these things, because ADHD does not cause people to be violent. Okay? It could cause certain things that bring up what is causing him to be violent. But that thing that's causing these outbursts is something that he would benefit greatly from going to talk therapy. Okay? And then, of course, the therapist, whoever understands his case in way more detail than I ever could based off one email, would be able to put processes in place, behaviors in place, different tools, different ways of learning about himself and healing and managing his emotions and everything like that. But for me, a non-negotiable would be that. And I'm really sorry that you're going through that. And I'm really sorry that, that everything else aligns so well, but that. Because it can be terrifying. And the fact that you said that there was a gap, but then it happened and it's the worst one yet, does this mean that it's just going to escalate worse and worse every time? Because The fact that there's a gap in between really doesn't, if it's just happened, it doesn't matter how long it was in between this one and the last one. It's happened. And that's a problem and it needs to be addressed. So yeah, hopefully that gave you, like, that would be my advice to you. I think you need to really protect yourself in this. I think sometimes people really lose a lot of themselves trying so hard to protect their partner, and you care about your partner and you care about the relationship, and there is so much good about this person and there is so much good within the relationship. And because of that acknowledgement, a lot of people will lose so much of themselves trying to really like just lean into the good and like push aside the bad and put up with it. But what ends up happening is that it will, if it continues happening, it's going to erode. And then you're going to feel like, well, I've spent so much time in this relationship. It's that sunk cost fallacy. I just can't give up now. It's never too late to start over, to start a new relationship. It's never too late anything. What you've got to focus on is this actually the relationship for me? Taking account everything, not just the good, everything. Is this what I want for my future? Because your partner, whether they mean to or not, whether whatever or not, has to be the safest person in your life. If your partner is not the safest person in your life, you should not be with that person. You should not be with that person. The amount of people, myself included, that have been in a relationship where I've not felt safe, and now I look back thinking that is just wild that the person that I choose to have the most intimate relationship of my life with, I don't feel safe around. Thinking about it now in hindsight after coming out the other end is just crazy. Okay? So ask yourself that question. Ask yourself all the questions I just told you to ask yourself. Go back and listen to it again and really think about it. But yes, start with therapy. I'm not saying go dump him tomorrow. I'm saying I need to see you want to change, and I need to see you want to change enough to actually do the hard thing. Okay? Thank you so much, everyone, for writing in, for listening, for sharing your voicemails, your voice messages, your emails. I really, really, really appreciate it. It just honestly means so much to me. It feels like we're having like a conversation. It's amazing. That is all for today's episode. Love you guys so much. As always, remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to your brain. Don't take shit from anyone, and especially don't take shit from yourself. Danke. Also, join the Self-Love Club broadcast channel. It's a fucking vibe. Love you. Bye.